Hello students, welcome back to my class. And in the previous video we discussed and I explained you chapter number 2 from class 11th book Hornbill. And in the previous video we discussed about the things that a family went on a voyage and their ship was badly damaged, and the family members and the crew members, they were also injured badly, right? We saw this thing. So today also we'll move further with the third part of this chapter. Okay, 2 already we have completed. Now this will be the third part of this chapter. So let's start with that. By morning on January 3rd, after getting injured badly, the family met together, and the children who were present in the family, Susan and Jonathan, even those children, they were very little, they were very young. The boy was of 6 years old and the girl was of 7 years old. Even then they were showing a great courage, and they were supporting their parents by the way of showing courage, right? So by morning on January 3rd, the pumps had the water level sufficiently under control for us to take 2 hours rest in rotation. Now, they had water pumps. Through those, they were pumping out the waters from the ship. So, those water pumps had a control over the water sufficiently, and now they took rest turn by turn, 2 hours each person. 2 hours each person, they took rest turn by turn. Means suppose one person is pumping out the water, so the another person will have a rest of 2 hours. So in this way they started taking rest, because they were very much tired also. You must we can understand that after getting injured into the sea storm, what can be the condition, what can be the physical condition of a person, right? So the same condition was there also. That's why they needed the rest very badly, and they got the chance of taking rest for 2 hours by turn. But we still had a tremendous leak somewhere below the water line, and on checking I found that nearly all the boat's main rib frames were smashed down to the keel. Okay, in fact there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard hull except a few cupboard partitions. Now what happened? They controlled the water, they threw out the water from the ship, but still there was water inside the ship. Okay, and they knew very well that there was a tremendous leak inside the ship, through which the water was leaking inside the ship. Okay, and that was somewhere below the water line. Means somewhere below the water level there was a leak into the ship, and from where the water was continuously coming in, right? And when the narrator saw, he found that all the ribs, boat's ribs, main ribs, these are the water pumps through which they were pumping out the water of the ship, and this is the boat's structure. These are called the ribs. As the human being has ribs in his body, in the same way the boat also has ribs. So these ribs were also broken up to the main beam of the ship. This is the main beam of the ship. So all those ribs were smashed due to that violent attack of the storm, violent attack of the giant wave. So the overall the ship was badly damaged, and in fact there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard hull except a few cupboards partition. Now what happened? Starboard side. Yesterday, means in the previous video we discussed about the starboard side. Which portion of the ship is called starboard side? The right hand portion, the front right hand portion is known as the starboard side. So there was no support for that starboard side except few cupboard partitions. Few cupboards were there inside the ship, and those cupboards were attached with that starboard portion. So only that was the support for the starboard section and nothing else. Now, we had survived for 15 hours since the wave hit, but wave walker wouldn't hold together long enough for us to reach Australia. Now, they had been surviving for 15 hours, okay, since the wave attacked on them or since the wave hit them, okay. Since then they had been surviving for 15 hours. But now the wave walker, their boat, their ship was not able to sustain any further. They thought so. And they could not reach Australia in the same wave walker. They were to reach Australia, but they didn't expect that they would be able to reach Australia in that wave walker. I checked our charts and calculated that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east. One of them, Isle Amsterdam, was a French scientific base. Only hope was to reach these pinpricks in the vast ocean. Now, then the narrator checked the charts and maps. Okay, he calculated, and then he came to know that there were two islands in that ocean. Okay, and those were a few hundreds of kilometers, means 100 kilometers away from that place. He calculated according to those charts and maps, right? And so now this was only hope to reach those islands in that huge ocean. Now, but unless the wind and seas abated, so we could hoist sail, our chances would be slim indeed. The great wave had put our auxiliary engine out of action. Now what happened? Now the narrator thought that unless the wind and the seas, if they stopped moving, unless they get into the immovable or motionless position, by that time they can't reach, or there was no chance to put the sail over the mast. Okay, and the great wave, that giant wave, that had already smashed, that has already damaged the auxiliary engine of their ship. Now, on January 4th, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, we reached the last few centimeters of water. On January 4th, they were attacked by the wave, I think, on 2nd of January. Okay, and now on January 4th, after 36 hours of struggle, continuously they kept pumping the water, and they reached the last few centimeters of water. Means they took the level of water very below. Only few centimeters of level was left into the ship, and rest of all water they have thrown away. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming. Now the only thing what they had to do was to keep pace. They had to keep pace with the speed of the water coming in, and they had to in the same way they had to throw the water with the same speed. They had to throw the water out of the ship. Okay, so that was the only thing. Now we could not set any sail on the main mast. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. So we hoisted the storm jib and headed for where I thought the two islands were. Okay, Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and we ate our first meal in almost 2 days. Okay, now what happened? They didn't think to put the sail on the main mast. They could not do that because the main mast is attached with the main body of the ship, and if there comes a load, or if there came a load over that main mast, so obviously it will that mast would be get separated from the main body of the ship, and that would be a great damage, and then there would be no chance of them to be alive, right? There would be no chance for them to be alive. So they did so, and instead of the sail, they put the storm jib on that mainmast. Storm jib is comparatively small and the sail is comparatively bigger one. Okay, that's why they put the storm jib, not the sail. Now, and then they started moving towards those islands. Now they didn't know where were the islands, but they were just assuming their direction and they were moving in that direction. And meanwhile, Mary brought some corned beef. Beef here means flesh, edible flesh, flesh of cow. That is called beef. So she cooked that cooked beef. She brought to the family, and some cracker biscuits, and that was the first meal they had after 2 days. Within those 2 days, that was the first meal that they had. Okay, before that, the whole family was feeling hungry or they were undergoing the hunger. Now, but our respite was short-lived. At 4 p.m., black clouds began building up behind us. Within the hour, the wind was back to 40 knots and the seas were getting higher. Their respite means relaxation. Whatever relaxation they had got, that relaxation didn't last long, and just at 4 p.m. there started forming dark clouds behind them, and the wind also started moving at 40 knot. Knot here the unit of measuring the speed of the wind. Okay, so the wind also started blowing at the speed of 40 knot. So again they were in a trouble, and the sea was also getting higher. The weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night, and by dawn on January 5th, our situation was again desperate. Now the weather was continuously deteriorating, declining. The condition was worsening, okay, continuously at night. And on January 5th in the morning, their situation was again desperate, disappointed. They were again sad. Their situation was, means they were in a miserable condition was there. Now, when I went into comfort, the children, John asked, "Daddy, are we going to die?" I tried to assure him that we could make it, but Daddy, he went on, "we aren't afraid of dying if we can all be together. You and Mummy, Sue and I." Okay, now what happened? When he was in a comfortable when the narrator was in a little comfort, at that time the boy asked his son, narrator's son asked him, Jonathan asked him, "Daddy, are we going to die?" And before the narrator could assure him that they could make that, okay, before that the child continued further and he told, "Daddy, but Daddy, we are not afraid of dying if we can all be together. You and I, Sue and Mom. Okay, if the whole family dies together, so we are not afraid of dying." The young boy, 6 years old boy, he told so. Now you can imagine the courage of that boy. Now, I could find no words with which to respond, but I left the children's cabin determined to fight the sea with everything I had. Okay, now the narrator was speechless after listening his son. He was speechless because he didn't have any reply what to say. Okay, but he left the children's cabin deciding and determining that he would fight with the sea with whatever he had. Now, to protect the weakened starboard side, I decided to heave to with the undamaged port hull facing the oncoming waves, using an improvised sea anchor of heavy nylon rope and two 22-liter plastic barrel of paraffin. Now the narrator, after coming from there, he decided to support that starboard side because that was weak, that got weak, that was weakened, right? Why? Because that was damaged. So he decided to support that starboard side with some things whatever he had on the ship available. Okay, so in this way he collected some things like anchor with a nylon rope and then two barrels of paraffin. Barrels of paraffin, you can see this is the map of that island, Amsterdam, you can see. So they were to go here, and these are the barrels. So he decided to put these barrels alongside of that damaged starboard side in order to support that. Now, that evening, Mary and I sat together holding hands as the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken planks. We both felt that the end was very near. Now, that evening, they tried hard, they struggled hard, but still they were not able to cope up with the situation. So, the narrator and his wife, they sat together hand in hands, and now they were very desperate, and they were thinking that their end was nearer, very nearer, okay, because the water was continuously coming into the ship from the planks. Planks means long boards of timber, wood, okay. So from the gapes of that timber, the water was continuously coming into the ship. So that's why they were desperate, and they thought now their end was, or that death was approaching. But Wavewalker rode out the storm, and by the morning of January 6th, with the wind easing, I tried to get the reading of the sextant. Okay. Now what is sextant? Sextant. This instrument is known as sextant, through which a person makes the reading of the directions, makes the reading of the distances in the sea. While traveling on the sea, while going on a voyage, if a person uses this, so that person uses this for calculating the distances, for calculating the directions. So on this sextant on January 6th, the Wavewalker, their boat, swam into the sea, okay, rode into the sea, and that kept sustaining, that remained in that situation even after so much damaged. So he calculated and he made the reading on this sextant, the narrator. Back in the chart room, I worked on wind speeds, changes of course, drift and current in an effort to calculate our position. Then he came to the chart room again, where all these things were there. He worked on the wind speed, he checked the wind speed, changes of course. Changes of course means way, changes of way. Then he checked the drifts, he checked the current in an effort to calculate our position. Okay, current means the current of the wave, the current of the wind. So he calculated everything, okay, to check their position. The best I could determine was that we were somewhere in 150,000 kilometers of ocean, looking for a 65 kilometers wide island. Now, after all these calculations, the narrator could conclude that they were somewhere in the 150,000 kilometers ocean. In 150,000 kilometers ocean, they were finding 65 kilometers wide island, Amsterdam. As I showed you, Amsterdam, 65 kilometers wide island, they were finding in 150,000 kilometers of ocean. So it was too difficult. It seems impossible, but anyhow they were trying to make it possible. Now, while I was thinking, Shiv, moving painfully, joined me. The left side of her head was now very swollen, and her blackened eye narrowed to slits. She gave me a card she had made. While he was thinking about all these things, while he was thinking what to do and how to reach that island, okay, just then, meanwhile, Susan, she came, the narrator's daughter, she came to her father, okay, with a bump on her head. You can see bump, just a minute. You can see the girl is having bump on her head, okay, that bump might be, or that injury might be more deeper than this. This is not that deep, but Susan's injury might be more deeper or deeper than this, okay. So that girl came and her eyes were changed into a slit. Slit means if you have a cut on your skin, so eyes were also very thin, and they went up to the slit. This was the condition, okay. And we knew that she had some cuts and bruises on her body also due to that violent attack of the wave, okay. And why did she come to her father? She came to her father to give him a card what she prepared. Now, on the front, she had drawn caricatures of Mary and me with the words, "Here are some funny people. Did they make you laugh?" I laughed a lot as well. Inside was a message, "Oh, how I love you both." So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. Somehow we had to make it, okay. Actually that girl gave that card. The girl came to her father to offer a card what she prepared for her parents, okay, with the caricatures of narrator and narrator's wife. Now what are caricatures? See, caricatures I am showing you. These are the caricatures, okay. So she prepared in this way. Suppose you can consider that he is the narrator and she is Mary, Susan's mother and father, okay. So she prepared these kind of caricatures and she brought that card to her father, and she brought that card, or she prepared that card to thank her parents for loving them so much, and she had a message in that card that how much she loved her parents, right. So she offered that card to her father, and she asked him if that card made him laugh. So literally and really the narrator laughed after looking at the card, because that was comic, you know, caricatures were drawn, so that was anyhow a little bit comic, and in that difficult situation also that card made the narrator laugh, okay. Now next, I checked and rechecked my calculations. We had lost our main compass and I was using a spare which had not been corrected for magnetic variation, okay. Now the narrator was making calculation and he checked and rechecked, okay, because they had lost their main compass. Whatever this is called compass. For checking the direction, this kind of compass is used on the sea voyage, okay. So their main compass was lost somewhere in the that accident or in that storm, okay. But they had a spare one, the old one or the extra compass they had, but that was not working properly, that was not correct, okay. But still he was trying to make the calculations with the help of that spare compass. I made an allowance for this and another estimate of the influence of the westerly currents which flow through this part of the Indian Ocean, okay. He calculated that he calculated about the winds, their directions, he calculated about the storm or the possibilities of a storm on the way ahead, okay. Now about 2 p.m. I went on deck and asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. At 2 p.m. he went on the deck and he asked Larry Wiesel, American Larry Wiesel, the crewman. So he told Larry Wiesel to turn the wheel of the ship on 185 degree, okay. 185 degree, you can see 180 is here, so this will be 185 here somewhere, okay. Now so he asked Larry Wiesel to turn the ship on the course of 185 degrees. If we were lucky, I told him with a conviction means belief, okay. So with a belief, the narrator told Larry Wiesel that if they were lucky, he could expect to see the island at about 5 p.m. Now narrator told Larry Weasel, if my conviction is right, if my belief is right, then possibly we would be on the island, Amsterdam Island, by 5 o'clock, if I am right, if my belief is right. Okay, so he asked him to turn the ship at 185 degrees course. Now, then with a heavy heart, I went below, climbed on my bunk, and amazingly dozed off. Now, what is dozed off? See, this person is dozing off. All the persons, they are busy with their work. He was also busy, but due to some tiredness or something, he is dozing off. Means he is feeling sleepy unintentionally. He is not intending to sleep, but still due to the tiredness in the body, the person does so. So this is called dozing off. So the narrator also went into his bunk on the ship, and he started dozing off, because you can understand they had been struggling with the storm for 2 days, or for 36 hours or 42 hours, like something like that. Okay, that's why he was tired a lot. Now, when I woke up, it was 6 p.m. and growing dark. I knew we must have missed the island. Okay, when he woke up again at 2 o'clock, he went and he started dozing off, but at 6 o'clock when he woke up, so it was getting dark. It was getting dark in the atmosphere, because it was the time of evening. Okay, and the narrator thought that they had missed the island somewhere, because he estimated that if his course was right, if his calculations were right, so they would be on the island by 5 o'clock, and now it was 6 o'clock, still there was no island. Okay, he thought so, narrator thought so. Now, and with the sail we had left, we couldn't hope to beat back into the westerly winds, and whatever sail they had on their ship, so narrator didn't believe that with the help of that sail, or with the help of that ship, they would be able to move back or go back with the same ship. That was not possible, because the westerly winds were blowing very fast. Okay, so the ship would not be able to sustain, would not be able to cope up with those westerly winds. Okay, so it was impossible, the narrator thought. At that moment, a tousled head appeared by my bunk, and in the same bunk where the narrator was sleeping, from the same bunk, a tousled head means uncombed or rough head, popped up from the same bunk. Okay, and said, "Can I have a hug?" Jonathan asked. Whose head was that? That head was of narrator's son Jonathan, and he asked his father if he could hug his father once. Okay, now she was right behind him, and just behind the son, his daughter was also there, Susan. Okay, now why am I getting a hug now? Narrator asked his son why he was getting a hug at that time and in that situation. Okay, because you are the best daddy in the world and the best captain. His son replied, because I want to hug you because you are the best daddy in the whole world, and besides this, you are the best captain in the world. Okay, now, not today, John, I am afraid. And then the narrator told to his son, not today, John, I am afraid. I am not a best captain, I am not a best daddy today, because today our situation is something different. It is critical. Okay, now, why you must be, said Sue in a matter of fact voice, you found the island. Okay, now Susan told, why you must be afraid? You found the island, so you have the right to get a hug from all of us. Okay, narrator was not aware of this thing, that they had got the island, they had reached the island. Narrator was not aware of that. That's why he was desperate and he was disappointed. But the children, narrator's wife and the crew members, they knew very well, and probably they did not have they had not disturbed the narrator just because of this, because he was tired a lot, right? So when he woke up, then they informed him that they had reached the island, Amsterdam island. Then when the narrator heard this, he shouted, "What? We have reached." Now, it's out there in front of us. They chorused, both the children, they spoke together and they told, "It's out there in front of our eyes." Okay. As big as a battleship, and that island is as big as a battleship. Now, what is battleship? See, battleship. This is a battleship. You can see tanks, even more than I think 3, 4, 5 tanks are kept on this ship. Now you can imagine what will be the size of this ship. Okay, so the children compared that island, Amsterdam island, with a battleship. This kind of ship is known as a battleship. Now, I rushed on deck and gazed with relief at the stark outline of Isle Amsterdam. Okay, stark outline means absolute outline. He went on the deck on the ship, and then he saw the island. Okay, and he could see the outline of that island from the deck of the ship. It was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation, the most beautiful island in the world. Okay, and that island was a bleak piece. Now, what is bleak piece? Deserted area. Deserted, in Hindi what we call virana. Okay, sunsan. So that was the bleak piece of volcanic rock that was created just because of volcanic eruption. Okay, in the sea. Okay, but it was having a little vegetation. Some trees were there, some plants were there, little bit, not more. Okay, but that was the most beautiful island for all of them. Now that could have been beautiful for the family, because that just because of that island they could survive themselves. They were alive in this world. Now, we anchored offshore for the night, and the next morning all 28 inhabitants of the island cheered as they helped us ashore. Okay, then they assured on that island. They went on that island. Okay, and they stayed there for that night, and next morning all 28 inhabitants. Now you must be thinking that they were only 6 people, and how 6 people were turned into 28 people? There were some people already there on Amsterdam island. They might also have captured, or they might also have trapped in the same kind of storm, and they also somehow they reached there on that island. So all of them, all 28 inhabitants of that island, they celebrated their victory over the storm. Okay, and those might be those other people, those other 22 people might be the inhabitants of that island also. It's not clear, but we can guess.